I'm
Yes, ma'am.
audible, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I would like to thank Principal Sir and this college for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. And yeah, it will be nice to be collaborating with your college whenever you need the help from me. I would like to start the talk, today's talk, with a quote from Prime Minister. He said that handlooms are diwane khas and power looms are diwane aam. He's literally comparing handlooms with the darbar of emperors for special people as against the locals. Handlooms are not just fabrics, they are exclusively customized artworks by the most talented artisans called weavers. It provides access to tradition and heritage with ergonomic benefits and association of cultural story. Handloom industry in India is an ancient cottage industry spread all over the country and is a source of livelihood for millions of people. Unfortunately, the handloom sector is facing stiff competition from mill sectors with lack of funds, old technology, and inadequate marketing capability. Many of these textiles art forms have begun to fade. So it's important to revive this sector and create synergy between handloom and fashion industry. By integrating fashion with handwoven wonders, we can help and regenerate the artisanal community and village culture, where enhancing the value uh, while enhancing the value of the product. So today I'll be just talking about briefly the history of handloom in brief. Then I would talk about advantages and importance of handloom, and at the end, design intervention from designing industry with handloom sector. After this, I'll take you through a tour of India where each sector or each region has their own weaves and how we can use these handloom weaves to design contemporary garments. And at the end of the talk, I have compiled a certain themes and trends for fashion in the future. Since this pandemic has caused a major disruption in the production of garments, trends to look forward will also be more sustainable, giving handloom community an upper hand. And before I begin, I would like to emphasize on two things. I've tried to compile as much as possible from each region of India, the major handlooms, but I may have missed out on something. And the second is that I'm only talking about synergizing handloom with fashion. There are other applications of handloom like home furnishing, accessories, and other crafts and products, which I haven't focused or touched upon because of lack of time. So let's just begin with my talk. Yeah. So to begin with the history, as you all know, handloom fabric is one of the most ancient hand-woven textiles found in India. So fragments of finely woven madder-dyed cotton was found in some of the excavation sites at Mohenjo-daro. The first reference of hand-woven fabrics is also found in Vedas. Indian floral prints dating back to 18th century AD were discovered in the icy waters of Central Asia. Sant Kabir, who was a weaver himself, has immortalized handloom with his dohas and songs. And in many of these weaving communities, they start their weaving process by singing the doha of Kabir, and then only they start the weaving. So you can see the holistic process of the weaving. Mughal emperors are well known to have patronized silk and cotton weaving industry, producing some of the finest malmal or cotton that we have found so far. The finest quality of muslin was produced in Dhaka, that was known as Malmale Khas because of its delicacy and fineness. The fineness of Dhaka muslin was shown in its weight. So 15 meters of fabric weighed just 900 grams. It is said that when wet muslin cloth was laid on the grass, it was almost invisible. That was the fineness of that malmal that was woven. Poets of Mughal Darbar have compared these handwoven fabrics to morning dew, woven air, and running water, giving the poetic names of Shabnam, Baftawa, and Rabevan to all these muslins. In the recent times, Mahatma Gandhi has offered handwoven khadi fabrics as a weapon for India's independence in the form of Swadeshi movement, giving the regional handloom fabric the advantage over powerloom fabrics. So what is handloom? The literal meaning is hand woven fabric. And what is weaving? Weaving is interlacing of two sets of yarns, lengthwise and breadthwise, or it's called as warp and weft at right angles. It's called weaving. The equipment that facilitates this process is called loom. And looms can work either with electricity or without electricity. So a hand loom is a loom which is used to weave cloth without the use of electricity. This is done on either pit loom or frame loom. And when fabrics actually are woven with hand spun yarns on hand loom, they're called as khadi fabric. And when these are woven with mill spun yarns, they're called hand loom. So there's a difference between the texture. The khadi is a little more coarser since the yarns are also hand spun yarns. In brief, I'll just tell you what is a pit loom. The pit loom is something that is kept on the ground with a pit where the weaver keeps his legs in the pit and he operates it from there. This is considered as a better weaving because the woven fabric retains the character of fiber and fabric as the ground absorbs the tension and speed and makes the fabric more breathable. The frame loom is kept above the ground and the weaver bent forward to perform the task. It has foot pedals to lift the warp threads and leaving the weaver's hand free to beat the weft threads. The twill and satin weave can be produced on this, and there is increase in speed as both hands are free to work. So this is a pit loom where this is a pit where the weaver keeps their legs in the ground, and this is a frame loom which is kept above the ground. So coming to advantages of the handloom fabric, they are generally soft, comfortable, durable, breathable, cooler, they are more absorbent, and so they're sustainable and environmentally friendly. Now, all of these qualities of handloom fabric is due to human handling of the yarn in the weaving process. As a result, the yarn and the fabric is less stressed and less damaged. Hand-woven cotton is known for its breathability as compared to mill-made cotton, allowing more air penetration, making it more absorbent. And the above quality makes the wearer cooler in summer and warmer in winter. That is the speciality of hand-woven fabrics. Coming to importance of handloom in fashion, the natural fibers that are used in handloom makes the fabric more comfortable. These fabrics are eco-friendly, easily biodegradable, and it puts less pressure on the environment. They are sustainable fabrics with minimal resources, like no electricity is used here. It's a community-based activity providing employment to women and many of the family members also, because the entire family is involved in the weaving process. So there's opportunity to pass down these traditional skills to the next generation. By using handloom fabrics for contemporary wear, it helps you revive your traditional craft and support the artisanal community. It identifies a specific tribe from every woven fabric, giving cultural appropriation to each community. When you wear a certain fabric and recognize that fabric belonging to certain weaver or a tribe, they are recognized world over, and that will give them encouragement to weave more, or they will not be discouraged to go into handloom fabrics. So as an Indian, we can proudly display different weaves into the more modern garments on a global platform, giving boost to policies like Make in India and Atmanirbhar. So what, as a design community, what we can do? There are certain design interventions that can happen for handloom by the design community. The first is you can design new products for contemporary wear or certain other uses like furnishings and accessories. You can redesign the existing products with changes in shape, size, surface embellishment, function, and utility, which will provide the new markets. So you can explore the new markets and revive the lapsed markets. Find out the reason why that particular market has not worked for a certain weave and revive that handloom for that particular market. You can introduce new materials, new processes, new tools and technologies, giving boost to the artisanal community weaving. And you can find balance between traditional and modern design that matches the craft production to the needs of the modern living. The focus is more on the identity of the craft, its social and cultural relevance to the region and processes and the materials involved. And you can assist in creating awareness among artisans for methods, tools, processes, and the clientele base that they have. So it's important that the craftspeople are educated about the latest trends, contemporary fabrics, and the needs of the modern market, and of course the technical know-how. So starting maybe a couple of weeks of interventional program for for artisans, where they are taught about the latest trends and the modern needs, will be beneficial for the weaving community. So all of these above interventions will help artisans and craftspeople to have a strong foothold on global fashion industry. We have to use these design intervention methods to use traditional handloom weaves to make contemporary garments, and find ways to use them in developing furnishings and accessories. So I'll now let you take you to a handloom tour of some of the Indian regions, showcasing different weaves and how these fabrics can be used for creating contemporary garments in fashion industry. So starting with Himachal Pradesh. Himachal Pradesh is known for its kinori or Kulu shawls, the chamba rumal, and the patti fabric, which is a coarse woolen fabric which is woven in shorter width. The chamba rumal, as you can see here, is a textile which is embroidered and given to a woman during her marriage. You can see the weaves of these. These are all geometrical motifs in Himachal that you have with the vibrant colors, mostly made of woolen fabric, uh, made of wool of different types like angora or pashmina or mix of any of these. So these are the traditional uses. They have the kulu cap, they call, with this border, woven border of wool, or they also have this footwear or this traditional dress outfit. But some of these designers have used this fabric for contemporary wear on global platform. They have showcased these weaves in different format for contemporary wear. Coming to Kashmir, Kashmiri shawls are identified by distinctive Kashmiri weave and made of finest santush or pashmina wool, which is obtained from the belly of the goat. Shantush, Pashmina, Kashmir, Merino wool is in that order of fineness. Shantush, of course, is now banned, which is not available, but Pashmina is equally good. It is valued for warmth, lightness, intricate butta or paisley on the surface. Shawls take like for particularly a shawl called Kani shawl is a work of patience and artistic skills, which is woven just 1 inch per day. Kashida work or Ari work is an intricate and laborious embroidery which is done on finest Kashmiri silk saris that are available for people. This is the contemporary use of some of these weaves garments that are made with Kashmiri fabric. Coming to Varanasi, this is a treasure trove of textiles. Uh, we have brocades, tanchois, kadwa, kadiyals, jamawar, and tissues. So brocades Varanasi is generally known by brocade fabrics, which adds to the ancientness and spirituality of this city. This is an extra weft technique of weaving, giving a raised embroidered effect. Then you have tanchois, which involves complex and technical weaving techniques with 1 or 2 warps and 2 to 5 weft colors in the same shade, giving it a delicate glaze for the fabric. Designs of birds, flora and fauna are woven uh, on this fabric, which is lightweight, elegant, and it gives a very royal look. Then kadwa literally stands for kada hua or embroidered. This is again an extra. This fabric is woven by at least 2 to 3 weavers in a traditional pit loom, which uses extra weft and again gives an embroidered motif effect. Then you have kadiyals, tissues, jamawar, which is a paisley design in pallu. Then you have katan silk, which is the name of the silk that is degummed and twisted pure silk yarn, which is softer. You can see all of these here on this slide. Then you have this contemporary use of these garments in lehenga, in skirts, in western silhouettes, in trousers, in gowns, and all of these different garments. Then coming to Lucknow, which is known for its chicken curry. This is again a very, very ancient art, which was again started by Mughal Queen Noor Jahan. And it's very famous. This is usually done on mull cotton. That was also a speciality, which was a very thin mull cotton. And there are various types of embroideries, which is in chicken curry. There are various types of stitches. Now, these are again used in contemporary garments or silhouettes by latest designers and taken it to global platform. Coming to Punjab, Punjab is known for its Fulkari embroidery, the case and Panjadaris. So Fulkari embroidery is again a traditional art of Punjab, which is given for a girl during marriage. case fabric is usually a furnishing fabric, but I will show you in the next slide that they have used this fabric for creating garments. And panja daris are cotton woven daris, that is the carpet for the floor, which is also a cottage industry in Punjab and Haryana sector. These are some of the uses of fulkari. This is case fabric which is used for contemporary wear. Then coming to Jharkhand, Jharkhand is known for its wild silks. So Tasar, Gicha silk, Kosa silk, Ahimsa silk. These are all wild silks from this region. So basically, the moth is not fed on mulberry silk, and so the texture is a little coarser here. But it at the same time, it's very organic and it's very it gives a very nice feeling when you're wearing these garments. Then coming to Orissa, which is again, which is treasured for its ikat, bomkai, sambalpuri saris or fabrics and kotpad weaves. Now ikat, before I talk about it, in India we have three regions where ikat is woven. That is Orissa, Andhra Pradesh and Gujarat, and each of them have different weaving techniques. Basically, Ikat is a resist dyed technique of double ikat. It is the history of silk is linked to Lord Jagannath, especially in Orissa, because most this fabric was woven for temple offering, as a temple offering. So it is a symbolic concept of Lord Jagannath. The designs used here are birds, animals, rudraksha, geometrical designs, temple towers, etc. And the process of weaving takes like 6 to 7 months or even more, and that is why most of these double ikat weaves are very, very expensive. Then coming to Bomkai sari, these are woven in a village called Bomkai in Orissa. There is a silk thread work which is done on the pallu and in the border with limited colors. These are distinguished by beautiful thread works in, so you can see the shine here. This is the Bomkai sari with a beautiful pallu and a border. And then coming to another weave from this region, which is called Kotpad weave. This is a tribal weave, which is woven in limited number of colors. So only the beige, maroon, black are the colors which are used for this weave. Now, these are the contemporary uses of the fabric from this region. You can see the Kotpad weave and the way it is used. Now, West Bengal is another region where lot of textile and heritage fabric come from. So you have a traditional Baluchari weave, which is woven in Bishnupur. These are rich silk saris, which are characterized by intricate weaving in silk thread on pallu and borders, depicting stories from epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata, and other historical regions of the story. So pre-independence, they had even woven stories from British Raj on their pallus and borders. And if you can zoom and see, they are all very, very intricate figures. So you can imagine how long the weaver must have taken to weave these Baluchari saris. Then you have something called as Jamdani sari, which is a cotton sari, very fine cotton or malmal cotton, which is most labor intensive form of handloom, weaving with one of the finest varieties of muslin with extra waft technique of for weaving to add intricate pattern all over the fabric. Then you have Murshidabad silk, which is light, soft, and smooth textured sari, which drapes very well. Either it is so most of these textiles from West Bengal are ornamented on ornamented. So you have Kantha silk. So Kantha silk is basically a silk, plain silk, which is ornamented with a embroidery technique called Kantha work. Then you have in Murshidabad, especially the region Murshidabad in West Bengal is famous for its block printed silks and a batik technique, which is special. It is a different batik technique that you have in West Bengal than in the other places in India. So this is the application of West Bengal handloom. You can see Kantha work in these three garments. This is a Baluchari coats or jackets. This is also a Baluchari weave application. These are all Jamdani weaves, which are turned into summery dresses. Then coming to Northeast, again, Northeast comprises of 7 states, but each one of them have their own typical weave and Weaving is a major cottage industry of the northeastern region, and most of the people who wear clothes, they wear clothes which are woven by themselves. They are all hand woven fabric. Nothing is mill made here. So I'll quickly go through some of these uh, textures in Northeast. So Mekla Chadar is famous in Assam. This is a two-piece drape which is woven with rich motif, and typical colors are gold and beige silk and red motifs. This generally silks that are used in Northeast are Muga silk or Eri silk. Then coming to Meghalaya. Meghalaya weaving is an ancient art in Meghalayan tribes. It has a rich variety of hand-woven textiles. Weaving is a traditional occupation of tribal women. They weave, they wear hand-woven cloth in the form of different drapes. You can see the shawls here or the drapes that they have, and these are some of the uses on contemporary platform. Then coming to Manipur, handloom variety weaving is a major part of socio-cultural tradition of the people of Manipur. Women form major weavers. Fabrics and shawls woven here are in great demand all over the world with vibrant colors, exotic designs, and brilliant motifs. Then next is the Nagaland. The Naga textiles are woven with handspin cotton, which is cultivated widely here. Eri silk, indigenous nettle, and bark fibers are also used in weaving process. Each tribe uses distinctive pattern and lines, squares, bands, and has motifs in black, white, and red. And also green motifs on extra weft. The designs have social significance and symbolic meaning, which will reveal their social hierarchy uh, in the region. Then coming to Tripura, traditional cloth that is woven is called riha. These are worn by women covering upper half of the body. The colors used here are blue, black, red with vertical and horizontal stripes and motifs like star, dots, stylized florals. And women wear generally lungis, saris. Most of their garments are drape style of garments. And as you can see, all over Northeast, the colors are the chosen few colors, and the motifs are all geometrical motifs. The Arunachal Pradesh, the textile patterns found here are mostly again geometric with stripes, straight lines, bands, and use of colors and ornaments are associated with the family and the social achievements and the hierarchy in the society. Now coming to the southern states, begin with Andhra Pradesh, the Kalamkari, which is, I think most of us know about Kalamkari. There are two kinds of Kalamkaris. One that is coming from Srikalahasti. This is a temple town, and so this style of Kalamkari is usually hand drawn technique. Most of the motifs are mythological characters here. And then there is another kalamkari coming from Andhra Pradesh, that is from Machilipatnam. This is a block printed kalamkari. In both the cases, the dyes that are used are natural dyes. And it is either done on cotton fabric or on silk fabric. So this is also an art, the textile art, I would call it. The next one that you have from Andhra is Ikkat. This is again, as I said earlier, it's a piece of resist dyeing technique where warp and weft are individually colored and then woven according to the design in cotton, silk or cotton silk mixed. These are the applications of this. This is Ikkat. These are kalamkaris used in contemporary garments. Then you have coming to Karnataka. Karnataka is famous for its ilkal, khana fabric and Mysore silk, which stitching blouses. These were woven for stitching blouses for ilkal saris, and so the width. So it actually literally means one khana means half a meter. It's a unit of measurement, and because it was made only for blouses, but later now they have started weaving in a longer width. So they are distinct with weave creates an intricate brocade-like pattern in two-tone jewel, mostly vibrant jewel colors. You can see how beautifully they have used this fabric for making contemporary garments. Then coming to Kerala. Kerala is known for its Kasua saris, which is a speciality of Kerala handlooms weave, and it is very elegant and simple in color. there are just two colors. I mean, as in just one color, which is a beige or white, and the golden, that is jari, which is woven as a border and or as a pallu, and with buttas all over the fabric. These are generally woven on hand woven malmal fabrics. Then coming to Tamil Nadu, checkered pattern or the grid pattern called kattams in Tamil is an integral part of the design in a lot of hand-woven textiles in Tamil Nadu. There is a wide variety from coarse to fine opulent silks of Kanjivaram. Generally, what is known outside is a Kanjivaram silk, but you have different handlooms which are Chettinad cottons, which then you have Sugundi sarees from Madurai, and you of course you have kanchi cotton saris. These are all lightweight. You also have a lightweight silk called arni silk, which uses 2 or 3 ply uh, yarn. Then so these are the uses of this Tamil. You can see the Sungari saris or Kanjivaram silks, and Chettinad's handlooms are being used for contemporary garments. Coming to Goa, the Kunbi sari. The Kunbi is an original tribe from Goa, which was they used to work in paddy fields, and so this sari was woven in the short width. It will just come just below their knees so that they have their legs free to work in the paddy fields. So this drape was not it's not possible. It was not possible to wear this for the normal in the modern usage. So the late designer Sir Wendell Rodrigues revived this sari and made it accessible for others for contemporary use. Then coming to Maharashtra, Maharashtra of course is well known for its different types of handlooms according to each state and climate and socio-cultural aspects. So you have Paithani, Pune saris, then you have Narayanpet saris, you also have Mashru and Himru fabrics of Aurangabad, you have Khana fabric from North Maharashtra, then you have block prints and tussar silks from Vidarbha region. So these are all some of the traditional fabrics from Maharashtra. But the only thing that is known is probably Paithani saris, which is woven on fly shuttle and pitloom. This is a pure silk sari, which is using pure traditionally used silver with gold coated fabric, and the colors were very vibrant. You can see the use of Paithani. These recently they have started using it. Used to be woven only in for the sari format, but now they've started weaving in 2.5 meters, which can be used for dupatta or for making kurtas and other garments that you can see on this slide. Then the next is Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh, the Maheshwari, Chanderi textiles are famous. Weaving tradition in temple town of Maheshwar dates back to 2nd century. Maheshwari saris are subtle and simple. They exude charm and sophistication. Silk thread is used in warp and cotton thread is used in weft, giving it a lovely silky shine. It is light and comfortable drape. Chanderi is another traditional ethnic fabric which is characterized by lightweight, sheer texture and fine luxurious feel. Traditional coin, floral, peacock and geometrical designs are woven into different Chanderi patterns. These are among the finest and which are known for their gold and silver jari, fine silk and opulent embroidery. Then the next is Gujarat. Gujarat is again known for another exquisite ikat, which is patola here. These are double ikat woven saris, usually made from silk in a place called Patan in Gujarat. So it is called as Patan Patola. These are sacred fabrics given to women during marriage and passed down for generations. Designs which are used in patola include the shikhar or square, which denotes security, and symbols like elephant, parrot, peacock, kalash. These are all symbolic of good luck to women after marriage. The design is traced on the translucent play paper, and then silk yarns are tied with cotton threads as per the design or pattern and dyed separately. This is a highly mathematical and laborious process, and it takes a year to make an intricately made entire patola sari, justifying the higher cost that it is retailed at. Then we have something called as Mashru fabric in Gujarat. The Mashru fabric is a vibrant mix of silk and cotton textiles. These are the story goes that these were woven for Muslim community who believe that silk should not be touched on skin, and so they mixed cotton and silk, where this textile had only cotton on the inner side and the beautiful silk on the outer side, on the outside, so making it very comfortable to wear in any weather. This is usually woven with silk warp and cotton weft and woven in satin weave to give a lovely sheen. You can see this mushroom fabrics here, which has a lot of application in contemporary garments. It can be taken on a global fashion platform. Then coming to Rajasthan. Now Rajasthan is known, okay, I have missed out on Bandhani. So Bandhani and Bandhani fabric and Bandhani is also known in Rajasthan and Gujarat both. So Rajasthan is basically known for its Kota Doria, which is a lightweight fabric made of tiny woven squares called khat. This is a hand woven on traditional pit looms in Kaitun near Kota district. This looks like a graph paper, which is sometimes block printed or embroidered. Silk is mixed with cotton to give a sheen to the fabric. Very few handloom now exists, and most of them are now made on the mill fabric, which is unfortunate. Various other textile arts, which are cottage industries of Rajasthan, are Bandhani, Leheria, which is a tie-dye textile. The Leheria is tied in a striped manner, which was done for the turbans of main folks here. Then you have Bagru print, which is of Chippa community. These are also block printed textiles. Then you have Dabu print, which is printed with clay and sawdust. Then you have Sanganeri prints, which are block printed from a place called Sanganer in Rajasthan. Then there is something called as Pattu weaving. This is a unique weaving style used for making woolen textiles with narrow stripe pattern called patti. This is woven on twill weave with extra weft, which is giving motive and appearance of embroidery. This is a pattu weaving from Rajasthan. This is about the application of Rajasthani fabric on contemporary garments. So this was all about different handlooms of India and how you can synergize modern fashion scenario. As an Indian, it's our duty to use our heritage with the fabrics which are unique to our country. Every fashion design student should use some of the handloom weaves to design their collection on global platform. Post-COVID, all artisanal community is looking for support for their products. By choosing handloom for your contemporary fashion requirements, you are supporting artisans financially. Now, coming to the next part of my talk, which is fashion redefined themes and trends to look forward to. As you all know, fashion industry is one of the worst affected industry during this COVID, since the entire business of fashion relies on discretionary spending. So post COVID, our lifestyles are going to change, and business of fashion will also see some of which will redefine the way we look at fashion. The dominating concept of fast fashion will be replaced by functional fashion with emphasis to protection, comfort, self-reliance, sustainability, which we can achieve by following some of the major themes and trends that I have compiled. So to begin with, first theme will be Make in India. This is all about buying garments made in India. Since India has a rich textile heritage, which we just saw, with large organized as well as unorganized sectors, it makes sense to buy garments which are made in India, helping thousands of skilled and unskilled laborers to get employment opportunities, helping countries' economy. The second theme is about local resources and craftsmanship. Every state in India has a rich tradition of crafts with plenty of local resources. So turning to these easily available local resources, working with textiles and craftspeople to innovate in their product line will give them opportunities to revive their craft, promoting local skills and provide income for their survival. The third theme is about emphasis on 3 Rs. The 3 Rs are reduce, reuse, and recycle. So we can reduce the wastage by buying less fast fashion and discarding less garments to landfill, thus reducing the load on the environment. We can reuse the garments in different forms by pairing them with different separates, which will increase their functionality. Like for example, a tank top, which is worn generally with a skirt or a trouser can be used as a blouse for sari, or a linen blazer can be worn with a skirt or a trouser or sari or even salwar kameez. Then the third R is about recycle or repurpose the garment into a new style by using different pattern making techniques, embellishments like embroidery, pattern making techniques like here you can see in this slide. You can convert this old shirt into a peplum style dress by using some of the pattern making techniques. You can add beads on your t-shirt sleeve, or you can add this kind of embellishment on your plain looking top to make it look new. You can convert your denims into shorts, or you can add an embellished pocket to your t-shirt to make it look more stylized. That will bring us to the next or last theme, which is circular and sustainable fashion. Now sustainability is when the entire chain of production from raw material to manufacturing uses environmentally, socially, economically sustainable techniques, and circularity is about bringing waste back to nature to be used as raw materials for next product use. By practicing both, we are helping our environment for reducing carbon and water footprint. Now coming to the trends post COVID, I'll be talking about trends in terms of color, silhouette, fabric, accessories, and embellishment. The first color to look forward to will be friendly and relatable soothing pastels to calm your mind, to reduce your anxiety. These soft pastels are light pink, peach, lilacs, then you have light blues or mint greens and lemon yellows. The second trend is about vintage inspired earth colors, which takes us back to simpler times, something which we are all familiar with. These are also colors which we'll get from natural dyeing techniques. So we'll have olive greens, rusts, beige, brown in fashion. Towards the end of the pandemic, we'll see a lot of bright colors which can stimulate our brains and re-energize us with bright yellows, flaming reds, oranges, and bright blues and greens. Coming to the silhouette, the classic and seasonless clothes will be popular after this. Classic fashion is a style which lasts for several seasons and is accepted by a wide range of people. This is a timeless look with fine fabrics, classic and simple cuts, and minimal embellishments. Example here, like your in Indian style, Lucknowi kurta is considered as a classic style, which comes just below your knees. You have all these handloom weaves that I just spoke about. These are always classic and seasonless drapes that we have in Indian wear. In the Western wear, you have beige, black, and navy trousers with a classic style white shirt, a black skirt, a black dress, and blazers in solid colors. So multifunctional separates will also be very popular during this time. Some of the Indian classics here. Coming to fabric, the fabric to look forward to will be easy to care, sturdy, stain and water repellent fabric, and the fabric which has antibacterial finish. It's important to look for these fabrics since repeated washing and drying in the sun is recommended. Fabrics should be resistant to fading and strong detergents. So look for cottons, denims, linens, blends like polycot and polyester or viscose rayon, which are easy to care fabrics. Fabrics like bamboo has a natural antibacterial property, so that's also will be popular. So in general, eco-friendly and natural fabrics will be more popular, with dry clean only fabrics on the um, decline. Coming to, these are some of the fabrics. Coming to embellishments, the emphasis will be on DIY or do it yourself embellishment. With more time at home, people are learning different skills and hobbies like embroidery, painting, applique. These are all on the rise. You can use these on your neckline like this mirror work or a thread embroidery, or you can simply tie and dye your t-shirt in different techniques and convert it into a stylish one. So this will also enable your recycle, repurpose, and reuse of the garments. The embellishments that you use will be restricted to the top part of the garment, because work from home is is the norm now. So only the top part of the garment is visible. So these will be restricted to neckline, the collars, or shoulders, or sleeves, or yokes. Coming to accessories, the prominence will be given to functional as well as decorative accessories. The hats which protect us from sun and dust can be redesigned with the addition of net or transparent fabric or plastic shields, which will give additional protection from water droplets. This is also along with wearing masks. So mask is a is just outer another protection that is added. Also, these large hats and the large shoes which were or the long shoes, which were very famous during Gothic era, can become fashion, because this will help in social distancing. People won't come very close to you. Anyways, the footwear which is generally popular will be closed footwear for giving additional protection from water or any other virus. Then coming to dupattas or scarves, these are the most versatile pieces in your wardrobe, since these can be worn with different garments and worn in different styles. Every garment that you wear with will look different when you're pairing it up with a different scarf or a different dupatta. So you can also showcase all of your beautiful handlooms and textile weaves that we just spoke about in these dupattas and scarves. And different techniques of tie and dye or embroidery or mirror work can also be showcased here. Then fabric and terracotta jewelry will be more popular, which will help in creativity and sustainability. Since luxury spending will be reduced, people can hone their creative skills by making jewelry with fabric scrap or terracotta mud, which is easily available. As you can see here, this is a necklace. These two are necklaces made out of fabric scrap. This is an embroidery pattern which is converted into a pendant and made into a necklace. These are the terracotta jewelries which will be famous. And coming to the last accessory of the season, which is creative face mask or face mask, which is a must now. Without that, we don't have any escape for the next couple of years at least. So this is the most important accessory, and this can be made by using all of your skills that you know, like embroidery, painting, or crochet work. Like this is a crochet work mask. And of course, you should not forget about the two more layers beneath this to give added protection. These are some of the masks made to match your Paithani sari or a Kerala sari. So wear mask and stay safe. And so this is all about the trends and major themes to look forward to in fashion post-pandemic. As they say, end this talk with the saying that fashion is the armor to survive the reality of everyday life. So use this armor in the right way to get over the anxiety caused by the corona pandemic and to help sustain the cottage industries and artisanal community of our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. I think now with this we can turn towards our question answer session. So if anyone having questions can raise your hands, and then
I hope it wasn't a very long.
No, ma'am, you have covered.
I hope it wasn't a very long because I had to speak about at least the major textiles, and I know the time limit was 1 hour, so I tried as much as possible to fit in. Yeah.
No, ma'am, it was very informative. You can see the chat box also. You can see all the feedbacks we are getting from the people. They want this recording actually. They want your PPT. They want your recording. So that itself says it was a very interesting presentation you did, and very clear it was actually. The knowledge we could get, everything was very clear to us. So we have one participant here. It is Aarti Sana. She wants to ask some question. Can we go to her? Please, can you unmute your this thing? Aarti Sana.
Yeah, sure.
Aarti Sana, cannot see her. Or you can put your questions on the chat box. Raise your hands or put your questions on the chat box so that we can ask. Yeah. It's Chaya Verma. You can unmute your mic and then you can ask for the question.
Hello, congratulations, ma'am. It was very nice presentation.
Thank you so much.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
you are.
ma'am.
Actually, I am working with handloom weavers of Ambedkar Nagar.
Okay.
They are just weaving lungi and gamchas and some of plain khadi
Okay.
fabric. And you said like product diversification like can lead to uh, for their improvement,
Yes.
uh, improve their livelihood if they diversify product. But their setup is like that they can only weave gamcha and lungi. So can you suggest something so that they can diversify their
Yes,
product?
it's a very interesting question. Actually, we had done this project for one of our MSc girls, had done this project on gamcha, and she had converted these gamchas into stoles and also the short tops that can be worn over denims, I mean, for trousers or skirts. And it came out really well. So gamchas and lungis actually have really very nice design feel. If you can add some of the embellishments on this and convert them into garments with the same width you can convert them into many different products. So this I'm just talking about the fashion garment, but as I said just now, so this girl had converted these gamchas into 2-3 products, which was stoles with embellishments. Then it was tunic, because the width of that was, yes, less, but you can join the two gamchas together and create this. So yes, there are plenty of options that you can create different products with this, and which is already done. Like we have done this research project in our college in
Okay,
Bangalore.
one more thing, ma'am. They have suffered demonetization and then GST and now this COVID-19.
Correct.
So most of the handloom weavers in Ambedkar Nagar, they are just stopping the weaving, and they have no raw material. There are many other problems, you know. So how can we help them so that they
Yeah,
can continue?
this is a problem not just post COVID or during COVID. This is a problem within our country, always been there, because I think people as Indians, we are not proud of our own weaves and handlooms, and we don't go for these products thinking that they are, you know, cheap or whatever. I don't know what is the mindset of people, but I request every person who is attending this presentation to, you know, go and buy. When you are buying a product, don't go for these fast fashion things which will last only for like 2-3 months or maybe 6 months, and then you have to discard those garments, which will create so much of tension on, I mean, stress on environment. So the solution to this is creating awareness amongst the population for buying more of the handlooms wherever, I mean, whoever is coming from whichever region, each one of you have a handloom weave in your place. So why don't you, as a fashion design student, create this awareness amongst people? That is exactly what I call as design intervention, where you have to step in and make things popular for make things work for these weavers. So
Okay, thank you so
yeah.
much.
Thank you. We have Harjeet Kaur. So you can come. I've just, you unmute your mic and then you can see. Harjeet Kaur. Harjeet Kaur. Or else we'll go to the next one. It is Anjali Kaure. Anjali Kaure.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, hello.
Yeah. Tell me.
Ma'am, actually, I am working as a faculty here in Akola, in Sri Shivaji College.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you that what as a faculty can we do for the students so that they can take handlooms and working on handlooms as an enterprise?
So
Because they are always seeking for jobs outside in bigger cities and all. Actually, it is a benefit that they are living in such a small towns and in such a condition that there are so many employment generation can be done, because there are NGOs, then self-help groups, but they don't go for quality products and all these things. So how can we promote them for handloom enterprises?
Yeah, so
That's my question.
thank you, thank you. That's again a very interesting and very good question. I would like to emphasize this, that all of these faculties that who are attending, you should probably change your syllabus of your fashion design course and include a module where compulsorily they have to create a product. Reinvent handloom in such a way that they themselves can be entrepreneurs for those products. So in our college in Bangalore, we make it a compulsory thing for research projects to take up. They have to go. I mean, most of my students have done that. Every year they take up these projects and they later, get into this entrepreneurship, creating those products for the mass at a mass scale. In Akola, you're coming from Akola, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you have so many of those nice, lovely silks that are coming, tussars and block printing.
Yeah.
It is not really
Actually,
well known, outside. A lot of people are not aware of it. I think even in Maharashtra, people are not aware of the textiles from Vidarbha.
yeah.
The
Actually,
silk.
I am running an NGO called Wave. We are working on block printing majorly.
Creating units in block printing, as you said, or in tie and dye, or in embroideries. There's so
Yeah.
many
But
techniques that you have.
one thing has changed, that as we are wearing handlooms all the time, so that awareness is being created in students
Yeah.
now, that this is something different and
Exactly.
special.
Also, I think, I remember once in one of the classes, I had told girls to, on one day in a week, please wear a different, a hand, come to the class wearing handloom. So at least you are
Yeah.
aware. A lot of fashion design students themselves are not aware of so many weaves that we have in India and how comfortable the fabric is for our weather, basically. The
I've
tropical country that we have.
I started celebrating the handloom day in a different way. That one thing I started doing from 3 to 4 years.
By wearing the
On 7th
Yes,
August,
correct.
yeah,
Yes,
handloom day
yes,
we are
that's a
celebrating.
good thing. Yes, I think every day should be a handloom day, not just restricted
Handloom day,
to
yeah.
one day in a year. Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. So, any other questions? Any other questions, people?
No. The Kunbi sari is not available nowadays, I think, no?
It is revived. It's revived by Wendell Minister.
Because
Wendell.
last year we went to Goa. I tried for that sari in whole of Goa and Panchim, but I couldn't get that sari.
It was a try. That is why it was on the, it was fading, and that is why he
Yeah.
revived it to contemporize the entire weave. It is so beautiful, actually. It's available only in the small and bigger checks, but he's also made it into a lighter color, the beige colors.
Yeah. Someone said that only one weaver is there, one weaver family is there who is weaving this sari.
Yeah, that is a sad part of a lot of our handlooms, which are they themselves are not very proud about their skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what has happened.
The hosts are not
Yeah,
available.
I don't know what is wrong. So, do you export your products from your NGO?
No, what we do, we organize exhibitions, and we had supplied stoles to the army.
Oh.
One of my friend was a wife of Lieutenant General in Delhi, and Kashmir she was posted. So what we did, once I gifted a stole to her, the block printed one, and then she started asking for the stole, and they want to gift it to the delegates, international delegates and bureaucrats. No, usually the army gift only handicrafts,
I think
Indian
all
handicrafts.
government.
So she thought, so why not to buy this different thing?
That's excellent.
So
Yes.
we supplied it to her also. And sometimes boutiques and all, if they take, because we work only on pigment printing.
Okay.
the laborious printing method, it's not possible for us here in Akola. So
The block printing.
the pigment
Yeah.
printing is not that much finished as the
Yes.
Jaipur Bagru
Yeah,
Saganer
yeah.
printing.
Those are different techniques, Bagru and Tabu.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
yeah.
So, but
Ma'am,
yeah, this is also good enough. You are always reviving the thing in
Yeah.
your place. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
ma'am, we have
I think
some more
each one
questions ahead.
with a little bit of effort. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah,
I think there was
we
some
have Rajni Gupta.
problem with the-
We are asking you to unmute your mic. You can ask the question. Rajni Gupta.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for this information. Ma'am, my question is that
Yes.
do we have enough research on Indian garments for the future trend? You showed some of the hats and shoes and colors in the
That is what the
post-COVID period.
no, these are the trends that I have compiled post COVID. So see, basically what happens in fashion field is the forecast is always done catering to Western countries. It's never meant for India. India always has different colors, different the silhouettes. All of that is very different in India. So these are collected by me for post COVID scenario.
From the Western trend, right?
Not from the Western science as such. You will so when you do your forecast, it's based on what are the what the society is going through. Basically, that is how most of the trends and forecasts are done for the next year. So right now, since this pandemic is going on, when you obviously come out of it, there are certain needs that you need to cater to, and that is why that was a fun element, the large hats and the long shoes that I had added into this.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
welcome.
Anybody else can raise your hands if you have any questions, or else I have one question for ma'am. The present situation
Yeah,
of
tell me.
the handloom industry, we can see it's already, we are seeing na, like
I
you're talking about the
couldn't hear
Kumbi
you.
and all in Goa. It's already lost there. We have only one family who is doing this job.
Yes.
So in the present situation, this is the condition of
Yes.
handloom industry. So what will it be after post-COVID? So what will be the suggestion you will be giving to this wide fashion designing students or the people who are involved with this handloom and textiles? What will be your suggestions or your this thing, ma'am, on this?
Oh, that's exactly what I'd compiled in that design intervention. That first and foremost is please buy handloom. When you go out, I know that now the buying of the garments are really reduced because of this entire situation. But whenever you have to buy, make it a point to buy directly from artisan. Recognize them, give them that recognition that you have bought from them. Ask them their name. There are people who ask them. I mean, in the area in the Kutch, there are artisans which are known by their own printing technique. So people recognize the prints and know who is the artisan who has woven this. So my suggestion would be to go to these artisans and buy products from them. That is one. Also, I think to make it more popular, the fashion design students can make it, as I just said, you need to have a compulsory module on handloom weaving and create garments. And it should not be just a theoretical subject, because fashion is all about practical application. So when you have this practical application of handloom, creating garments which the youngsters can wear, because for them they feel that these are all the old traditional things which they don't want to get into. So create silhouettes which are for modern wear and which can be brought out on the global platform. That is the second suggestion. And of course, government intervention is a must for this, because they have to come up with the schemes to provide income, to provide various financial packages for this weaver community. And if it is possible at an individual level, you can create a cluster and get them these financial help. You can create courses of 2 weeks or 1 month as an institute, them to give knowledge about what are the latest trends and how they can go ahead with their looms by a little bit of design intervention. So the designing has to come from weaver. You can just give suggestion. So it becomes even more holistic and organic, the entire process. So that's
Thank you.
about suggestions that I could.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. There's, I think this will be the last question we can take. There's one question on the chat box where they're asking, ma'am, can you explain the purpose of long shoes in earlier Gothic era once again. And my second question is about how we can motivate the students during this COVID-19. Please give us some suggestions. Is there on
Yeah,
the
so I
chat?
think the second question I've already addressed that,
Yeah.
which is for the students to, how you can, so one is to create a module on this in your syllabus. The other is maybe you can have fashion shows based on this. You create products and try and sell them in each of your institutes. You can create a store which is stocking only the handmade products. Which will give encouragement to other weavers also to showcase it. So that's about the second question. The first question was on the long shoes. So long shoes during Gothic era was the norm. It was the norm to create. It was a fashion. Like you have the different fashions and trends in each era. So during Gothic era, the huge garments, the long hats, and the long shoes were the norm, probably coming from the tall architecture. That is also my topic for research. So where you can see in Gothic era, the architecture had very tall structures, and so the same thing had perpetuated in fashion, in terms of long shoes, the very long pointed hats, and the entire silhouette had a very linear structure. So that's about why it had come into fashion. It was not about protection or social distancing or any of those things. That is what right now I'm saying, that this can be a good fashion for social distancing. People won't come close to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Anybody else, if it is there, or we can just come to the concluding part of it. Anyone else is having any questions or anything? We have still time. We have another 10 minutes to finish with the wind up with our this thing. Okay, so we can see nobody. Everything. Your PPTs and your presentation was so clear, ma'am, and we gained so much of knowledge. Like excellent PPTs, I can say. You have got lot of material with you, which made the pictorial presentation made it very clear for the viewers, participants to guess it. Because if it was only the name of the handloom or the place textile which is coming, we wouldn't have been clear. But your pictures made it very clear for all the participants. It was an excellent presentation, ma'am. Once again, I thank you on behalf of our college. And as we come to the end of this webinar, I request the coordinator of webinar, Mrs. Archana Patil, to present the vote of thanks. Over to you.
Thank you, Jyoti madam.
Before you proceed for
today's guest, respected Miss Vaishali Menon, design educator, Bangalore, all the participants and faculty members from various colleges. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks for today's webinar. I'm Mrs. Archana Patil on behalf of CNCVCW Cyber family and the volunteer extend a vote of thanks to the honorable delegates who blessed us with their presence and took out valuable time of their busy schedule. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Ms. Vaishali Menon for her work. I especially like Ms. Vaishali Menon's speech where she mentioned some important views about the synergy of handloom and fashion trends to look forward to fashion in post-COVID. The way she explained the topic was very effective. I also wish to express my gratitude to our principal, Dr. A.R. Kulkarni sir, for extending his support and encouragement. I am very grateful to respected Dr. R.A. Shinde sir, Secretary C-Cyber Kolhapur, and H.R. Shinde sir, Trustee Member C-Cyber, for giving us an opportunity to organize this webinar. I heartily thanks to all the participants and faculty members for their active participation in this webinar. As no program can become successful with a single person, so I extend my thanks to our HOD and IQSC coordinator, Mrs. Jyoti Hiremat, Fashion Design Department, and all the staff members and students for their support. Thank you all for making this webinar successful with your contribution. Thanks once again, and I declare today's webinar is concluded with the permission. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Just when we come to the end of this, I have a small announcement to be done to all the participants. Our next webinar is on management of emotional and behavior disturbance in early childhood, early adulthood. This will be very good for all the college students. So it has been scheduled on 12th or 11th. We'll just send the link to the already existing channels about it. So it will be on the, we'll send the link to you on this. So with your permission, ma'am, we can end, can we end with this webinar?
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks
Thank
all of
you.
you for participating in this. And also a last note on this is that I hope at least every one of you go for and patronize Indian handlooms by buying them and converting them, or in whichever form. Just popularize the weave and help the community, help the
Yes.
artisan community.
Yes, ma'am. Surely, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.